They say the desert is empty after dark, quiet, peaceful, lifeless. But these stories prove that sometimes, when the sun goes down, something else wakes up out there. I still see him sometimes when I close my eyes, standing in that glow that wasn't really there, hands stretched toward a fire that had long gone cold. I'd driven out to the Mojave to clear my head, just me, my truck, and a small camp setup about a mile off the highway. No service, no light but the stars. It was early spring, cold at night, but quiet in that peaceful, endless way deserts can be. I built a bonfire, had a couple beers, and watched the embers die out around midnight before crawling into my tent. I remember waking up to the crackling sound first. It was soft, steady, the exact sound of burning wood. My eyes flicked open, and through the thin nylon wall of the tent, I saw that familiar orange flicker. My first thought was that the wind must have reignited something. My second was that someone was moving out there. I unzipped the flap just a few inches and froze. A man was standing by my fire pit. He was tall, thin, his shoulders hunched against the cold. His hands hovered over the flames, rubbing together slowly. From where I lay, I could see the glow on his face, a strange, pale light dancing across his skin. He wasn't wearing camping gear. No pack, no flashlight, nothing. Just a dark jacket and jeans that looked stiff, like they hadn't been washed in years. I whispered out, "Hey, who's there?" He didn't answer, didn't even flinch, just kept warming his hands like he couldn't feel the desert chill. That's when I noticed the fire itself wasn't moving right. It wasn't flickering or crackling anymore. The wood was black and cold, no smoke, no sparks, yet the glow stayed, washing him in that false orange light. I reached for my flashlight and clicked it on. In the instant the beam hit him, the firelight vanished completely. The pit was cold ash. The man turned toward me, slowly, like something remembering how to move, and his face was gray, dry. His eyes sunk deep into shadows. I stumbled out, the light shaking in my hand, but there was no one there. Just the sand, my footprints, and a ring of untouched ash. At dawn, I found another set of prints leading away from the pit. They went about 20 feet, and then stopped. No drag marks, no shift in the sand, just gone. The next night, I didn't sleep. The wind outside sounded too much like something breathing. He didn't ask where I was headed. He just smiled when I told him and said he already knew. I'd been driving for hours through a stretch of desert somewhere between Barstow and nowhere. My phone had no signal, and the radio was just static. The sun was sinking into a rust-colored haze when I saw him, standing by a rusted green road sign, thumb out, one arm limp at his side like he'd been there a while. Normally, I wouldn't stop for anyone, but he looked half dead. Jeans torn, face sunburned, eyes unfocused. I slowed down, rolled the window down a crack, and asked where he was headed. He said in a calm, almost polite voice, "Anywhere with shade." He climbed in, thanked me, and sat quietly. I noticed his skin was caked in dust, but his boots were spotless, not a grain of sand on them. We drove in silence for a few minutes before he asked where I'd come from. I told him I'd been on a solo road trip, just camping my way across the Southwest. That's when he smiled, too wide, and said, "Yeah, I know. You stopped at that abandoned gas station off Route 9 2 nights ago, right? Slept in the back of your car after you heard something walking outside your tent." My hands tightened on the wheel. I asked how the hell he knew that. He tilted his head, still smiling. "Then yesterday you took the long route through Red Mesa because the main road was closed. You didn't see the sign until too late." Every word he said was true. He listed every stop I'd made, every wrong turn, even what I'd eaten. His tone never changed, steady, factual, like he was reading it off a list. I pulled over, heart hammering, and told him to get out, but he didn't move, just turned those cracked lips toward me and said, "You don't need to drive me anywhere. I've already been with you." The car filled with the smell of wet earth like after rain. The passenger seat creaked, and when I turned to look, he was gone. Just the faint impression of dust on the seat, and a single dark footprint pressed into the floor mat, facing my side. That was 3 days ago, and I still find new footprints in the car every morning. The first knock was so soft I thought I'd dreamed it. The second one was louder, and it came from just a few feet away. My wife and I had been living on the road for nearly a year, taking our RV through the quiet back roads of the Southwest. We'd parked about a mile off an old service road in the Arizona desert that night. No lights, no cell signal, just stars and silence. It was close to 2 a.m. when I woke up. I didn't know why at first. The air felt wrong, too still. Even the desert wind had stopped. Then came the knock, slow, deliberate, 3 times. It came from the main door, just behind my head. My wife stirred beside me and whispered, "Did you hear that?" I nodded, holding my breath. Another knock followed, same rhythm, same patience. I slid out of bed and reached for the small flashlight by the sink. Through the blinds, I could see nothing, just the pale sand and the faint outline of our fire pit. The embers had gone out hours ago. "Probably an animal," I muttered. But even as I said it, something scraped gently across the door. Not claws, fingers, then silence. A minute passed, then another. I was starting to relax when we both heard it, a slow creak above us, the sound of weight shifting on metal. Someone was on the roof. My wife's hand gripped mine tight. We didn't move. The footsteps were quiet, deliberate, circling toward the vent hatch above the bed. It flexed slightly under the pressure, the plastic cover bending in just enough to make it groan. I turned off the flashlight and reached for the small handgun I kept by the drawer. My pulse was hammering in my ears. Then the thing, or person, started crawling faster. Not walking, crawling. Hands and knees scraping along the aluminum roof in frantic bursts. I threw open the door and shone the flashlight up. Nothing. Just empty silver roof glinting under the moonlight. But when I stepped outside, I saw them. Prints. Dozens of them. Bare feet, pressed deep into the sand around the RV, circling it over and over. Some small, some large. We left before sunrise. 3 nights later, parked in a completely different part of the desert, we woke again to the same sound. 3 slow knocks.